ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's May Day in Dakar and 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. Chad shuts border with Nigeria amid Trump's controversial remarks.
Lives are being wasted, properties destroyed, and if Trump's intervention will bring an end, fine.
We see it as a political witch hunt.
Malian authorities extend curfews in Kai and Jola regions following continuing terrorist attacks. Guineans react to Doumbouya's presidential candidacy for December election.
You have seen the outings of Guineans to have him as a candidate.
Today we are disappointed to see a general taking a solemn commitment to the people of Guinea.
Benin's former president Boni Yaye rejects creation of a Senate as a public debate heats up. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast this afternoon. This edition begins with security concerns as tensions continue to rise across West Africa. At the moment, Chad has closed its border with Nigeria, citing security threats linked to alleged U.S. military plans in the region. The move follows a recent statement by U.S. President Donald Trump hinting at possible military action in Nigeria. WADR's correspondent Usma Umar reports from Abuja.
Military sources in N'Djamena say President Mahamat Idris Deby Itno placed the army on full alert after intelligence indicated that armed groups from northern Nigeria were attempting to cross into Chad. The move comes as U.S. President Donald Trump's remarks accusing Nigeria of failing to protect Christians spark diplomatic tension in Abuja. National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu met with service chiefs to assess the implications of Trump's comment and coordinate a national response. International relations expert Sadiq Abba says Trump's statement was politically motivated and does not reflect official U.S. policy.
If you're looking at his personality, he is somebody who is reckless and absent-minded, but at the end of the day, he is not a personality that looks at the interests of an average American on the street.
Religious leaders, Reverend Joseph Hayab and Sheikh Ahmad Gumi, however, offered contrasting views on the issue.
Every sensible and true Nigerian who will look at Reverend Hayab on the face and say there has not been killing of Christians, that day I will know that he's not honest. Has there been a shift? That's a different conversation. But to say there is not, because for deliberate reasons, some people twisted this whole killing thing into farmers-herders conflict.
What is happening in Nigeria, nobody denies there's a lot of bloodshed, but it has no any religious or ethnic connotation. It's just a question of land and survival.
In Jos, Plateau State, residents expressed mixed feelings about the controversy.
To me, it's a very much welcome idea. Lives are being wasted, properties destroyed, people becoming refugees in their land, and people are becoming so apprehensive and restless. And if Trump's intervention will bring an end, fine.
We see it as a political witch hunt. I'm not in support of the government policy because what we expected from the government is totally out of the box. But concerning the Christian genocide in Nigeria, it is something we debunk in totality.
With Chad's border now closed and Abuja on alert, regional leaders are watching closely as diplomacy and security collide once again in the Sahel. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
In Mali, authorities have extended curfews in the Kai and Jola regions until the end of November 2025, following continuing attacks by armed groups. The governor of Kai renewed the measure in force since the coordinated attacks of July 2025, which had targeted several localities, including Kaiville, Jama, Sandari, and Sajola. These measures are part of a preventive security strategy that has been regularly renewed for several months. Imo Edit tells us more.
The curfew remained in effect from midnight to 5 a.m. in Mali's border regions, with exemptions granted to security forces, ambulances and vehicles on official duty. The measure enforced continuously for the past 4 months targets areas exposed to armed incursions and persistent cross-border trafficking. In Jola, located in the Kulikoro region, the governor's office has also announced a curfew from November 1 to 30, 2025, running from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. The town lies on a key route linking central Mali to Bamako and has experienced a gradual increase in attacks since 2022, attributed to the elements of the JNIM who are seeking to expand their influence southwards. Authorities report several isolated incidents in recent months, including ambushes targeting government vehicles and gendarmerie patrols in rural areas of the district. According to the governor's office, the curfews are designed to protect civilians and facilitate security operations conducted by the Malian armed forces. However, the restrictions have had a notable impact on local economic activities, particularly night markets and intercity transport, both vital for supplying the affected communities. Regional leaders emphasize that the curfew is temporary and will be lifted once the security situation stabilizes and normalcy returns.
In more edified that report, let's now focus on some electoral matters. First, in Cote d'Ivoire, where the Constitutional Council is expected to announce final results of the October 25 presidential election this Tuesday at 1 p.m. According to provincial figures from the Independent Electoral Commission, incumbent Alassane Ouattara is well ahead with 89.77% of the votes. The appeals were examined last night at the close of the litigation phase. The Council's decision is final and will mark the official end of the electoral process. Meanwhile, in Guinea, the military leader, General Mamadi Doumbouya, officially submitted his presidential candidacy to the Supreme Court on Monday. He will therefore take part in the presidential election scheduled for December 28, 2025, running as an independent candidate. General Doumbouya is expected to face around 10 other contenders representing political parties and civil society groups. The Supreme Court has until November 14 to release the final list of candidates. Abdullahi Hassan tells us more.
An official submission of General Mamadi Doumbouya's candidacy marks his formal entry into Guinea's upcoming presidential race, where he will face several other contenders. Although General Doumbouya initially pledged not to run for office when he assumed power in 2021, the new constitution now authorizes his participation in the election. To date, 10 candidacies have been registered, including one woman. Among the notable figures are Lansana Kouyaté, former Prime Minister and President of the Party of Hope for National Development, and Usman Kaba, former Minister of Finance under the Lansana Conte administration. Also on the list is Makali Kamara, the sole female candidate who leads the FEM party and previously served as Minister of Foreign Affairs during the presidency of Alpha Conde, as well as Faya Lansana Milimono, leader of the Liberal Bloc, rounding out the candidates representing political parties. Several independent candidates from civil society have also entered the race. The Supreme Court is expected to publish the final list of candidates by November 14, 2025. However, several key figures from the Guinean opposition will not participate in the election. Among them is Sidia Touré of the Union of Republican Forces (UFR), who has exceeded the age limit set by the new constitution. Seliou Dalen Diallo, leader of the Union of Democratic Forces of Guinea (UFDG), and former President Alpha Conde have also been barred from the race, while their parties remain suspended by the Ministry of Territorial Administration. Meanwhile, in a statement released on Monday, the Forces Vive of Guinea condemned what they described as a breach of promise by the transitional president following the announcement of his candidacy.
A report from WADR's Conakry correspondent Cheno Alpha Ibrahim Ambalde, voiced by Abdullahi Hassan. Meanwhile, the announcement of General Doumbouya's candidacy for the December 28 presidential election is generating mixed public opinion in Guinea. For some, the head of state has betrayed his promise not to run in an election intended to end the transition. Others, however, believe that he could not remain in the background, given the numerous reforms and development actions he has undertaken since coming to power. Here are the citizens' reactions.
We are here to live a long-awaited moment because we wanted to ask for the candidacy of General Mamadi Doumbouya. The president will not challenge the overwhelming majority of the Guinean population, and he knows that this is what is in the supreme interest of the republic.
Today we are disappointed to see a general who had taken a solemn commitment to the people of Guinea, to justice, who has made a fool of himself, who does not see the place to represent himself, nor his government, nor the CNT. The fight will continue. The country must be a democratic country. We will leave it to the people of Guinea to choose their leaders. But there is no debate. For days, you have seen my outings.
For days, you have seen the outings of Guineans in the majority who express their will to have him as a candidate. He must be a candidate. It is an obligation. 80 to 90% of Guineans want his candidacy. What he has to do is to submit his candidacy. We are not managed by the charter. It is the constitution that is above all. And the constitution allows Mr. Mamadou Doumbouya to be a candidate.
Today is a sad day for democracy and the state of law in our country. The general has just won. It's a very, very dark page because this act is not only a violation of his own oath, but also a democratic step back for our country for 30 years in a row.
We want him to run in the presidential election. We want him to run because he is the only candidate in Guinea. He is our last hope. He is the last hope of Guinea. He is our last chance. He can do it for the land of Guinea.
Guinean citizens reacting to General Mamadi Doumbouya's announcement of his presidential candidacy.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
We continue with more issues, this time in Benin, where the proposed law to establish a Senate has reached a decisive stage. The National Assembly's Law Commission unanimously adopted the bill, which introduces several major amendments to the Constitution. However, on the streets of Cotonou, opinions remain divided over whether this initiative by parliamentarians is appropriate. Christopher Atichu has the details in this report.
On Monday afternoon, the Law Committee of the National Assembly gave the green light for consideration of the bill to revise the Constitution. Initiated by 2 MPs from the presidential movement, the text has been declared admissible, paving the way for its examination in a plenary session. As the process moves forward, reactions have begun to surface on the street of Cotonou.
As we all know, the question of the revision of the Constitution is a question that has crossed several governments. Today, as it has been done, I say bravo.
Now we can move on to something else. From now on, when a law leaves the National Assembly, it will first be amended by this Senate.
What role will the Constitution could play from now on? It must organize a general axis.
Why we still want to modify the Constitution to put in place an institution that violates the powers of the Constitutional Court, the powers of the National Assembly, the powers of justice, even the powers of the head of state, and the rights of citizens. It is very dangerous.
Following the Law Committee's decision, the plenary session will now vote on the admissibility recommended by the committee. To pass this first stage, the proposal must secure at least 82 votes out of 109 members of parliament. However, the bill has already drawn criticism. The opposition Democrat Party rejected the proposal over the weekend, denouncing what it described as a bill that fails to reflect the concerns of all Beninese citizens.
Christopher Atichu with the details of that report, filed by Aziz Adam Sule in Cotonou. Meanwhile, former Benin's President Thomas Boniyayi has strongly opposed to a proposal to create a Senate, describing it as an anti-democratic move that threatens the country's institutional balance. Boniyayi, who governed Benin from 2006 to 2016, insists the initiative lacks national consensus and undermines democracy. He says he will neither join such an institution nor endorse what he calls lacks national consensus and undermining the country's progress. The former Beninese president urges opposition lawmakers to block the amendment and calls for a national referendum, describing it as the ultimate expression of the people's will. The controversy unfolds amid heightening political tension, with the opposition party, the Democrats, excluded from the upcoming 2026 presidential election due to insufficient endorsements. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Chad shuts border with Nigeria amid Trump's controversial remarks. Malian authorities extend curfews in Kai and Jola regions following continuing terrorist attacks. Guineans react to Doumbouya's presidential candidacy for December election. Benin's former president Boni Yayi rejects creation of a Senate as public debate heats up. Still ahead, we have press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for being with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Let's take you to Ghana, where there are growing calls from citizens and environmentalists for an investigation and possible sanctions against the Member of Parliament for Asutifi North, Ebenezer Kweku Ado. He is accused of inciting a mob against officers of the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat. The incident, which nearly turned violent, has sparked widespread reactions, with many describing it as a test of President Mahamad's commitment to combating illegal mining. WADR's Nadiditita reports.
According to the police, NIMOS operatives intercepted illegal miners on Saturday, November 1, and retrieved several items, including 2 unregistered vehicles, a pistol, and ammunition. The police say the MP later arrived at the scene with a group of men demanding the release of the suspects. When this demand was refused, the group forcibly freed the suspects and chased the NIMOS team away. A mob, reportedly incited by the MP, later stormed the Shridium police station, vandalizing vehicles and damaging parts of the building. Reinforcement from regional command with support from the military and the Zango chief eventually restored calm. Police have since launched a special operation to arrest those involved. But the MP's lawyer, Kwesi Jimfi, insists his client played no role in the chaos.
What was done was to de-escalate the situation. So it's very interesting that some proponents are putting out there that he went in there to seize, he brought in mob action and a whole lot of things. That's never happened. And that is why we are ready to actually assist the police with investigations.
Coordinator of the environmental advocacy group Eco-Conscious Citizens, Awula Sewa, believes immediate action must be taken.
And it just shows the dire situation we find ourselves in, where NIMOS can be attacked by persons who should know better. But yes, everybody is innocent until proven guilty, and we look to finding out what actually happened. But I'm sort of disappointed that as at now, the MPs have not yet been suspended. And we are very concerned about what appears to be selective justice.
She has also urged President John Dramani Mahama to take decisive steps, describing the incident as a test case for his government's fight against illegal mining. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
Politics, analysis on major news, social.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Well, let's now take you to Liberia's capital, Monrovia, where Ibrahim Parker is on standby with the press review.
This edition of Press Review features 3 local dailies. We begin with front-page Africa newspaper, and it goes with these stories. Justice advocates reject surprise bills for war crimes court, said the measures in to shield suspects. Staged managed deal, and it continues conflict of interest alleged as law firm WFW represents both Liberia and Total Energies. The next stop is Heritage newspaper. Liberia's 2025 FDA Forum tackles deforestation crisis. Media demand National Election Commission settle 2023 election arrear. That does it for the Heritage. Our next and last stop is Daily Observer newspaper. Senate threatens Liberia's transitional justice? Well, allegations have surfaced that right advocates who are calling for the establishment of the World and Economic Crimes Court in Liberia have said that the introduction of two bills at the Liberian Senate is intended to shield suspects. They think that the bills are now in the right direction, and since in fact they've already have an existing resolution, they should support that resolution that is calling for the establishment of World and Economic Crimes Court. Ministry of Commerce and Industry clarifies reports on the U.S. $229,000 MRP rehabilitation as she launches 5-year strategic plan. Well, that does it for this edition of Press Review from Liberia's capital, Monrovia. And it's back to you in studio.
Abraham Packer with the Press Review from Monrovia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview segment this afternoon focuses on Nigeria as reactions are pouring in following Chad's decision to close its border with Nigeria, citing security threats linked to alleged U.S. military plans in the region. The move follows a recent statement by U.S. President Donald Trump hinting at possible military action in Nigeria. This move comes amid heightening insecurity, mostly in Nigeria's north-central region. Our guest is Dr. Maji Peters, a security expert and country coordinator of Think Project in Nigeria.
Since the pronouncement of Donald Trump, there has been a lot of interest and agitation around the security situation in Nigeria. And with the threat of an American invasion, everybody knows that if there's an invasion or there's an escalation of conflict in Nigeria, it will be a humanitarian disaster. And I don't blame Chad. I expect Cameroon, Nigeria to do the same thing, because if there is a humanitarian disaster and Nigerians are running for safety, refugees from Nigeria will overrun any of its neighboring countries. So what Chad is doing, they're just being very proactive so that they will ensure that they protect their own sovereignty, their resources, their people against such insurrections. Most of the time in multipolar diplomatic conflict, why do you think other nations are interested in resolving? Why do you think we have international cross-border mediation? Because they are afraid of the conflict spilling into a humanitarian disaster and having a retinue and flock of refugees overrunning other systems.
How could this closure affect the cross-border cooperation between Chad and Nigeria against insurgent groups?
Yeah, closing the border is not the issue. Most of the countries in West Africa have very porous borders. So closing the border is just a diplomatic maneuver. It does not stop movement because most of the people don't even come in legitimately across these countries. So the porousness of the borders across the Sahel is what is making insurgent groups do better. So I don't think that will hinder anything. It's just officially there might not be direct conversation among them, but then it does not stop them going ahead to do what they need to do. People who do business with others in those countries will go ahead and do what they're doing. And all of that will not be hindered, I'm sure.
How could U.S. President Donald Trump's remarks about Nigeria's handling of religious issues affect Nigeria's relations with both the U.S. and neighboring African countries?
Well, I don't think it will affect Nigeria's relationship with its immediate neighbors because diplomatic relations are not hinged on how you do with a third party. The American president said if. There are so many ifs in the conversation. There is issue of insecurity and a lot of people are affected by it. So he's not politicizing the issue. He's concentrating on dealing with the problem that should matter to us.
So what strategies could West African nations adopt to prevent political statements like the recent one from U.S. President Donald Trump or external influences from destabilizing the already fragile Sahel region?
Nations are respected, nations are engaged, nations are talked to based on your strength, your visibility, and your power dynamics in the international space. West African nations, third world nations should stop going into the international politics as beggars. They should go to make contributions, they should go with policies, they should go with contribution for global growth and development. They should go as sovereign nations that have something to offer. That's the only way they will stop talking down on them. We've seen it happen in all meetings the American president have had with leaders of African countries.
Dr. Maji Peters is a security expert. Now, in the world of sports, African teams made a strong start to the FIFA Under-17 World Cup 2025 with opening day victories for South Africa and Tunisia at the Aspire Zone in Al Rayyan, Qatar. South Africa beat Bolivia 3-1 in Group A, while Tunisia topped FG 6-0 in their Group D clash. Senegal were held to a 0 draw by Croatia, while Morocco lost 2 to Japan. South Africa reduced to 10 men on 36 minutes. Were right back. Steve Palmer was sent off after a video assistant referee review. But 2 minutes later, they took the lead through the talisman Emel Witboer. Winger Awandi Busen had only been on the pitch for a matter of seconds after coming on as a substitute when he laid the ball on the plate for Neo Boloko to score South Africa's second. Meanwhile, Wasim Slama and Fedi Taichi scored 2 goals each as Tunisia overwhelmed Fiji. Anisi Saidi and Saviji Hab Adala also found the back of the net in the biggest victory of the tournament so far. Tunisia are in a tough pool that also includes Argentina and Belgium, and they face the South American side next Thursday. Senegal had 18 shots at goal to Croatia 6, but could not break the deadlock. They will now hope to do so against Costa Rica in their next fixture also on Thursday. Morocco must overcome Portugal in their next match following their defeat to Japan. Well, up in Europe, the UEFA Champions League camps are live this evening. Italian giant Napoli welcomes entering Frankfurt of Germany. Slava Prague of Czech Republic welcomes Arsenal from England. Atletico Madrid will play Union-style Gulags from Belgium. Monaco travels to Bodo Glimt. Juventus will play against Sporting CP of Portugal. Liverpool welcomes Real Madrid at the Anfield today. Olympiacos will play against PSV Eindhoven, and Paris Saint-Germain welcomes Bayern Munich in Paris. Tottenham Hotspur will take on Copenhagen. And those are some of the latest in the world of sports. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. Many thanks to Faluso and Ismaila Kamara for the technical support. To interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram at WADR English, on Facebook, WADR English Service. At 1 p.m., Memuna Fofana will be here with the comprehensive news in French, which is Info chez vous. I am Augustine Cully. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kaigama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.